Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I am doing something a little different and mixing up a little bit. I've been doing a lot of videos on the 2022 midterm elections and kind of news and election predictions going around that, but today I'm going to do something a little different and focus on the 2024 Republican primary, and I created a little tier list here for some potential 2024 Republican candidates. And I don't know, I see a lot of videos with tier lists and I think they're really cool and they're really fun to do. So I thought 2024 GOP, let's make a tier list for this, and let's kind of see who some of the top candidates are and where I would put them. So starting from the top, I have the potential nominee or nominees. Close, but not close enough. Actually, I believe that should be third. Yes, there we go. So I have the potential nominee, the candidates who are probably going to finish in second, who could be the nominee, but just come up short a little bit. Close, but not close enough are candidates who could realistically be in the running, but just aren't able to put it together enough to finish and say first or second. After that, I have the candidates who drop out after Super Tuesday. They may be polling just enough to get on the debate stage, but they aren't going to be well enough to actually get any traction going. Drop out after New Hampshire. These are the candidates who pretty much their only shot is staying in the races if they do first, second, or third in New Hampshire. Otherwise, they drop out. And then drop out before Iowa. This always happens. There's one or two candidates who look really good who either drop out right before Iowa or drop out right after because they don't have enough fundraising to keep going. So with that said, let's get into the list. Number 1, Senator Ben Sasse. I don't think he's going to run in 2024, but if he did, I think he would go in the dropout before Iowa. I couldn't see him getting much attention. Next up, we have Governor Charlie Baker of Massachusetts. He has announced he will not be running for re-election in 2022. He is very much in the anti-Donald Trump category, so he is someone I think would actually drop out after New Hampshire. I think being from Massachusetts, at very least, he would wait until New Hampshire for his fate to be sealed and delivered. Christie in all likelihood is going to run again. He's been putting out a lot of statements saying he will, but 2016 was any indicator. Christie is heavily dependent on a strong showing in New Hampshire, and I don't think he would have that good of a showing, so I think he would drop out after New Hampshire as well. Dan Crenshaw. Dan Crenshaw is, I think, a very interesting guy and an interesting potential candidate. However, for 2024, I think he'd be a better VP than a president. So if Dan Crenshaw were to run, I could see him actually picking up some steam, so I'm torn between dropout after Super Tuesday or close but not close enough. So I'm going to put him in close but not close enough in the third tier, but he's an interesting guy for sure. Donald Trump Jr., he is someone that I don't think Donald Trump Jr. will ever run in 2024 because his father is more likely to run than not. So if he were to run, I think he would probably go in the dropout after Super Tuesday column. I don't think he'd be able to do as well as his father would. Donald Trump, former president of the United States, in all likelihood going to run again. He is 100% the potential nominee. I'm not sure if I'm going to put more than one in potential nominee or not, but Donald Trump is for sure the potential nominee. Eric Trump, I would put Eric in that same category as his brother. I don't think they're going to run, but if Donald Trump decides not to run, then his two sons definitely step up into that potential category. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, I'm also putting in the potential nominee tier. If Trump doesn't run, I think DeSantis is the nominee. I think he's a very good candidate and could definitely win in 2024. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas. Texas is a big state. It's a very important state in the country, especially for Republicans. Greg Abbott is someone who I think will actually do pretty well in a national election. As we know, Texas is a very, very good state when it comes to producing governors who run for president. That being said, I think Greg Abbott would fall in the same category of Dan Crenshaw, where he'd be in that kind of third tier of candidates. Not the best, not the second best, but kind of in this tier of, you know what, I could see it potentially happening. Ivanka Trump, again, going in that same category as her brothers. I don't think she would ever run, but if her father decides not to, maybe that might be something that gets a look at. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. I've been on the record of saying I like Josh Hawley. I think he's a pretty good rising star in the Republican Party. Some of his stances he's taken against big tech and technology, I think, is definitely going to help him in the years to come for the Republican primary. However, for 2024, I would beg the question of he may be a little too young, So I think he'd be a great VP option, but I don't want to put him in tier 2 yet because I think that might be a little too rich. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Josh Hawley in tier 3, and I think I'm going to put him second. Him and Dan Crenshaw are kind of in that. They'd be good for 2028 or 2032, but they're just a little too young for 2024 category at this time. Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland. For me, Larry Hogan is in that exact same realm as Charlie Baker is, where all of his chances pretty much rest on anti-Trump, and I don't think he's going to be able to get a ton of traction in a national environment, so I think he would probably drop out sometime following New Hampshire. Mike Pence is interesting. Former VP under former President Donald Trump. A lot of MAGA supporters are upset at Mike Pence. I'm not going to get too much into that because I'm just not going to get into it. But Mike Pence, honestly, I think would be a solid option for the Republicans to run, but a lot of MAGA supporters would not turn out for him. So that leads me to believe that Mike Pence is either in tier 2, he's either the best of tier 3 or in tier 2. I think for now I'm going to put him in tier 2. Just the fact that he was the VP, he still has a considerable support base. Not a ton, but he has a considerable support base. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State. If you were in the Trump administration, 2024, you're in the right time. I would say Pompeo probably goes in that second tier as well. Mitt Romney, we've seen this before, time and time again. Romney was the nominee in 2012. The Republican Party passed him by or gotten sick of him, whatever you want to say. Mitt Romney is good for anti-Trump. He is not good for the Republicans nationwide, I don't think. I think Mitt Romney may be the best of the dropout after New Hampshire. I mean, he is formidable in that he's found a way to win a contentious primary before, but I don't think he'd be able to do it this time around. Nikki Haley, I think she is definitely in that second tier of candidates where if Trump does not run, she could definitely become the potential nominee. I think she'd be a strong nationwide candidate, but I would not put her in the top tier. I'd put her in the second tier, a very strong candidate overall. Rick Scott, he's a very good candidate, a good fundraiser out of Florida. I'm tempted to put him in the second tier, but I'm going to put him in the third tier. I think with respect to Senator Scott, there's not really anything too unique about him or that would get people really excited to turn out and vote for him that, say, Trump or DeSantis would, or even Nikki Haley or Mike Pence or Pompeo would to an extent. So I would put Scott in the close but not close enough tier 3 column. Paul Ryan, I think Paul Ryan's time for national politics is pretty much past at this point. We saw that when he retired from the House of Representatives, so I think Paul Ryan is someone who would probably drop out after Super Tuesday, to be honest. I don't think that he would do too well in that regard. Rand Paul is interesting because he's very much a Republican who thinks a different way in a more libertarian mind. So just for the pure policy clash, I think he'd be awesome to have on the debate stage. However, he and his father, when they have run for president, have not been able to gain traction in voters in general. So Rand Paul is someone, I believe he dropped out, I think it was after Iowa last time. I think he may make it a little farther, maybe dropping out after Super Tuesday. So I'll put him there for now. Actually, I'm going to move Paul Ryan up in that case then in front of the Trump children. But actually, I'm going to drop Paul Ryan down to drop out after New Hampshire. But yeah, Rand Paul, that'd be that. Sean Hannity. For this base alone, I don't think Sean Hannity would ever run. And if he did run, I'm not going to lie, I don't think a news personality like Sean Hannity would do all too well. To be honest, I think he would drop out before Iowa. I don't see why he would run. Marco Rubio. Rubio, I think, again, would be a great choice for VP. For the top of the ticket, I wouldn't do it. I would put him in the close but not close enough category, making it past Super Tuesday, but he'd be a good VP. I don't think he would be a good head of the ticket candidate. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz finished second last time in 2016. He really gets a lot of the more conservative base fired up. He took the lying Ted insult from 2016 and turned it into Lion, Lion Ted. So, in a general election, I'm not sure how Ted Cruz would do. It probably wouldn't be all that pretty, but you know what? On the Republican primary side, the primaries typically go further to the right and further to the left, so that basis alone, I think Ted Cruz goes in the second tier of candidates. Tom Cotton, you know what? This might be a little bit of a hot take, but Tom Cotton I'm putting in tier 2. I could absolutely see Tom Cotton being either the nominee for the Republicans in 2028 or the vice presidential nominee in 24 or 2028. Tom Cotton, I think, similar to Josh Hawley and Dan Crenshaw, is a rising star in the Republican Party, and I think he's someone definitely to keep an eye out for as a potential dark horse to do really well in 2024. Tucker Carlson, again, I don't get this with TV personalities running. I don't think Tucker Carlson would ever do it. I think his current job is probably better than ever running. But if he were to decide to run, I think he would definitely do better than Sean Hannity would. I think he has a more populist appeal similar to, say, Trump or DeSantis. So from that basis alone, I think Tucker would do just well enough to get into the dropout after Super Tuesday category. But other than that, I really don't think that would do too much. John Kasich. I think John Kasich would actually be a pretty decent president when it comes to getting things done and getting laws passed. However, in the Republican primary, by supporting Biden in 2020, I think a lot of Republican voters kind of signed his fate on that one. If Kasich were to run again, I maybe see him getting to New Hampshire, maybe after Super Tuesday, but yeah, I don't think John Kasich has a shot at winning the Republican nomination ever again after supporting Biden. I think a lot of voters would say, yeah, not a chance. Next up, I believe we have Governor Christie of South Dakota. And she's interesting because if you asked me what she would do a few months ago, I would have said she'd be closer to, I think, the second tier of candidates as someone who could be a potential rising star in the Republican Party. She is a woman. She is a relatively pretty popular governor at the time. And now things have kind of, I don't want to say shifted, but she's lost kind of that enthusiasm that was starting before. Well, not really before COVID, but kind of like during. So Christie Noem, I wouldn't put in tier 2. I would put her on maybe the back end of tier 3, but she's someone definitely to keep an eye on as a potential strong candidate. And the last person on this list is Senator Tim Scott. He is someone who I think could definitely go in the second tier of candidates. Tim Scott, I think, is a very good vice presidential candidate, and if he were the head candidate, I think he could absolutely carry the ticket. Again, with him, I wonder if 2028 is more his time, like Tom Cotton and like potentially Josh Hawley or Dan Crenshaw. But as VP, I think Tim Scott would do great. As president, maybe a little too soon, but I think he could also do well as now. So that's going to do it for today's video. I have Trump and DeSantis as the most likely nominees at this time, followed closely behind with Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, and Tim Scott. Tier 3, who performed well enough to stick around but probably aren't going to win, Dan Crenshaw, Josh Hawley, Greg Abbott, Rick Scott, Marco Rubio, and Christie Noem. Candidates who drop out after Super Tuesday because they started off hot but couldn't really keep the momentum going. I think that'd be Rand Paul, Tucker Carlson, and then the 3 Trump children, Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. Drop out after New Hampshire after not performing as well as they hoped they would. Charlie Baker, Mitt Romney, Chris Christie, Larry Hogan, Paul Ryan, John Kasich, all in that similar mold. And then drop out before Iowa, that would be Ben Sasse and Sean Hannity, because, again, news personality, I don't really see how he'd be able to get ground in a state like Iowa. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure to give the video a like. Leave a comment below telling me what you think would happen, how you would rank these candidates, and any suggestions you have for who you think will be the 2024 nominee. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.